the CFL, there were a number of interesting moves. Justin, what stood out to you?
Drama, drama, drama. Let's go to Montreal because two defensive backs that were taking first team reps are gone. Dominic Ellis gets released. He's already signed with Hamilton, as you reported, Drew. And then their weak side or boundary corner, Mitchell White, who had NFL interest this past offseason, has been given his walking papers. He was cut by Montreal. You have to think a lot of teams are interested in his services, but that was not the only shocking news in terms of releases across the league.
No, I think we saw, Clarence Denmark got released in Saskatchewan. Terrence Jeffers-Harris in BC. Those are a couple of names that I think people will recognize. Brett Smith, also in Saskatchewan, a guy that played a little bit for them last year. But the really big move that had tongues wagging across the league was the decision by the Riders to claim two Canadian players off the practice roster in BC. That move kind of violates the unwritten rules across the league, where you don't see teams, generally speaking, plucking players off the practice roster, especially this early. But the Riders, desperate for Canadian talent, were absolutely willing to do it.
But the Riders have shown here, Drew, that they're not about making friends. They want to win. Chris Jones wants to get it turned around now. And it may be sort of an unwritten rule that you don't go and do that. But if you're between a rock and a non-winning place, I think you want to go to that winning place, right, as quick as you can.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's an unwritten rule, not a written rule. So, obviously there were some options available to BC where they could have kept those guys on the roster. And then teams make these kind of decisions all the time, right, where how they manage their practice roster versus their injured list versus their active roster. So BC took a risk by putting those two guys, young Canadian guys with potential, on the practice roster, and they paid the ultimate price.
Well, and let's sort of get this story straight, because they were not officially added to the practice roster. They were offered practice roster agreements, turned those down, and end up in Saskatchewan. I almost think the most interesting part about this, Drew, is the fact that Saskatchewan left a couple of active roster spots open so they could go out and possibly do something like this. I don't think they were thinking pluck guys off the practice roster, maybe leave it open for guys getting cut who they thought could be surprises like a Mitchell White, but they were clearly looking for guys and had their eye on some players around the league.
Trying to get better, just like us, baby.
Yeah, you got to win. Friends be damned, Drew.